Good morning from the race village in Les Sables We've got in a little bit early this morning, so for those of you that can't make it here, we thought we'd take this opportunity to give you a bit of a dock tour and talk about some of the boats that I'll be racing against and the skippers that are in the fleet. And because I'm not great on the boat still yet, we've got Joff here, who has been in the fleet for over 20 years. You can tell by his grey.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll kind of give you a bit of an insight into the kind of key features of each boat and what we might expect from this race. So starting with the most beautiful boat in the fleet.
In the fleet, for sure. It's our Pride and Joy Medallia 2. Won the race in 2016, third in the last edition, so very good history, good record of reliability, and yeah, our boat. How do you feel about it?
I think, well, it's a strong boat. In terms of performance, we're kind of in an interesting part of the fleet because this 2016 edition was the first edition to be designed with foils, and we still have the small foils. So there's only one other boat in the fleet that has small foils, and that's Damien Sagan. Everyone else with kind of sister ships to this has already upgraded to bigger foils, so we would expect to see a better performance than quite a few other boats in the fleet. But the small foils for me are a bit easier to handle at the moment, so it's kind of a good entry level step for me going forwards. So let's move on up the dock to our neighbour, and we are next to Bank Populaire. So this is being skippered by Nico Lundven. Clarice, who's Bank Populaire's regular skipper, she's pregnant. She's due to have her baby during the Route du Rhum. And so Nico is racing this year. And their boat is a 2007 Fino Conch. So no foils on this one, but it's got dagger boards. Anything else to note really on this one?
No, it's quite unlucky. It was the last boat launched in 2007 for the 2008. Actually, it was launched in 2008 for the 2008 race, and lost its rig, I think, in the first couple of days. So it was only sailing for like 2 months.
Oh wow! And it was raced by Damien Sagan in the last
yeah,
race.
he did
This
loads
group
of work to
Apple
it. So it's new rig. Done quite a lot of work to the back of it. Yeah, Damien did a really good job on it. Yeah, and Nico did well in the last race.
He did really well, yeah. And this is a stopgap for Bank Populaire. So they have bought
Pivia.
a Pivia. Yes, they've bought a Pivia, but they won't get it until the end of this year. And so they're racing this one just to kind of keep the points going in the Amoca Globe Series. Moving up the dock now to Group Setan. So this is Manu Cousin, probably the smiliest skipper in the fleet. Again, it's a non-foiling boat, and the same boat as Manu raced in the Vendée Globe, where he came 23rd. But he's done quite a lot of work to this over the winter, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done loads. Again, new rig, new back end, new rudders. I think this has probably done the most miles in the fleet. It was launched as Verbac Paprec. And then the Spanish guys had it, so it did a lot of Barcelona races, and I think it's probably done nearly every Vendée Globe pretty much since it was launched. So I think it's probably done the most miles in the fleet. But yeah, loads of work has been done to it.
You can see on the back here he's got 2 hydro generators just flipping up on the back there for his power generation. We've actually got internal hydro generators on our boat, so we put scoops down and we've kind of got turbines inside tubes. But he's got the ones that are like outboards that flip down off the back. A little bit of a gap here, and the gap, we're missing Eric Bellion, who's making a return to the fleet after his 2016 Vendée Globe, and Eric's actually sailing in Jean Le Cam's old boat. He's got a new non-foiling boat in build, and he's using Jean Le Cam's old boat to qualify during the next year. And then we're moving on to a boat that Joff knows very well. So this boat is being raced by Zabi Verez. So Zabi is a Hungarian sailor. He's done Olympics, America's Cup, now moving on to the Vendée Globe. And I think Joff can tell us all about this boat.
I built this boat in New Zealand for for the 2008 race. and then we did the Barcelona, and then it sat in a field not far from here for several years. And then we dragged it out of there for Harry for the 2020 race, and now he's sold it on to Zabby. So
this boat's done a lot of miles.
It has done a lot more, but it's put out to pasture for a lot of years, so
Yeah.
it hasn't. So it's not. It's done 2 Vendées, Barcelona race. I think Taste, it's been on a tight budget when Harry had it. I think Zabby's in the same position, so there's not many modifications. But it's a really beautifully built boat by Paul Hakes, and we put a lot of money and effort into it when it was built. So it's been it's a solid, reliable boat for those guys. It's good.
And main difference between this boat and the other 2 non-foiling boats that we've just looked at are that this one doesn't have a rotating rig.
Well, it does, but it's within the spreaders. So
okay. That's quite different then.
Yeah, I think it's the only boat left. The group setting started off with that rig, as did the old Gamesa.
So
hence it rotates within those.
Hence the diamond lower down. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
It's a bit, I don't know. Seemed good at the time, I think we'll say.
Okay, so the next boat on is a 2006 Phare, which was Compagnie de Lis. So this one raced in the Vendée with Clément Giraud. So this is now being sailed by Seb Marset. It's Cap Agir Ensemble. Seb has done, Seb's done a lot of offshore sailing. So he's done mini transats, couple of Jules Verne attempts with Spindrift, and he's done the ocean race as well, so he's definitely got a few miles under him. So up the dock again to another non-foiling boat. There's quite a few non-foiling boats in this race. So this boat, freelance.com, this boat is being sailed by Gerek Saudi. I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but those of you who follow social media will probably remember him as the French guy with the hen Monique. So he sailed around the world with his little red hen Monique and ate nothing but rice and eggs when Monique was in the mood. He is the youngest sailor ever to sail the Northwest Passage. He did that at 24. And this boat has had quite a few owners, hasn't it?
And it's been sunk twice, half sunk twice and recovered.
So it's a 2007 Phare boat. Can you remember? Tess now, can you remember who sailed it?
Well, it was built for the Barcelona race as a Estrella Dam.
Yeah.
And then it was BT with Sebastian Joss, I think, for that race. And then he got smashed in by a massive wave, I think, and broke the coach roof and stuff. So he was pulled out into New Zealand, I think. And then it became Hugo Boss.
Yeah, it's been a Hugo Boss. Yeah.
The 2012 race, and in fact I worked on their project not within the team, but as an outside sort of consultant to help with reliability and just sort of monitoring progress. Really,
it's got quite a nice cockpit actually.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot of cover there.
He was third, I think, in this boat.
Right.
And Benjamin Detroit did a really good job in the last race. So it's a quick boat. Certainly, it's probably the quickest of all those Phares of that generation, I think.
Yeah, it looks good. So moving up the dock now, another non-foiling boat, 2007 Phare. So this one is being sailed by Louis Duke, and Louis has done a lot of miles in Class 40s. He's a really well-known sailor in France with some success and a lot of respect. And he bought this boat from Clément after the TJV in 2019 when it caught fire just before the start. And Louis bought what was left of the hull and has stuck it back together. Very sadly, he dismasted. Did he dismast on the way back from the TJV or during the TJV last year?
I'm not
sure. So he's since sticking it back together, he's dismasted, but managed to get another mast, and here doing his Vendée qualification. So I think we're the odd one out on this pontoon having foils, aren't we?
Yeah, Biscassars aren't very big.
Oh.
Say that because the boats are so close together.
We've only got little foils.
We'll be on that pontoon next year.
Okay, and moving on, we have Monoyer Duo for a Job. So this is being sailed by Benjamin Ferret. He's only 31. So he's done, he sailed across the Atlantic with just a sextant, and then he did a solo world hitchhike before doing a mini transat. So it's a bit of an adventurer, Benjamin. And this is a 2010 VPLP Verdier, so it was formerly Massif. I don't really know a lot about this boat.
No, well, there's only 2 boats left, I think, sailing that were built for that race. It was quite, I think, because of the recession, there weren't many boats built for that race, and one of them's sunk since. Well, 2 of them have sunk actually since. So it's one of those ones left standing. But really, quick boats. There's quite a quantum shift between 2008 and 2010. So it's still got classic boards. But it's a quick boat for sure.
Nice.
For a classic boat. It's one of the it'd be one of the quickest classic boats.
And now we're moving on to Denny van Wijnberg. So Denny is a Belgian competitor, and he's aiming to be the first ever Belgian to finish the Vendée Globe. I know he kind of was trying to put a campaign together for 2020. But in the end didn't make it, so he's back again for 2024 in Laboratoire de Biarritz. Thank you. And this boat was built by Nandor Farr.
Home built basically. So I think he was sort of involved in the design of elements of it, and then built. Was in charge of building it. I think it's based here. It's only based here when Nandor had launched it. He did the 2016 race. Nice project.
And so this one really does have a rig that doesn't rotate.
It definitely,
Yes.
Is classic as you
get. That actually does remind me of Super B.
Yeah.
Very much.
I think that's a new rig out, I don't.
Okay, and now we're moving up to Antoine Cornick in EBAC Littery. So this is a 2005 Owen Clark that was formerly Spirit of Canada. Which was sailed by Derek Hatfield, and it was shipped over to France in 2019, I think. Jack Boutel was hoping to get a campaign together with it, and now Antoine has it. I think this the only remaining boat with rudders that don't kick up by the looks of it.
Probably, yeah. So I mean, it's classic Owen Clark, really. And again, it hasn't done that many miles. I think it did the Around Alone or 5 Oceans, whatever it was then. But again, he's put he's put the standardised rig in, and it's completely reworked it. You wouldn't really recognise it from the boat. Well, it used to have twin wheels. You can kind of see where the remnants of that would have been. And I think this boat took a long time. I think it was like 2 years in build because they kept running out of money. So it's sort of like a 2004 design, but I think it wasn't launched until after that. But it's nice to recycle boats and put a new rig in it and revamp it, and it's still going.
So it's quite interesting looking at this one, the position of the dagger boards compared to all the other ones. The dagger boards are right outboard, and these ones, the dagger boards, are inboard. So why did they move outboard then over time?
So basically that configuration was to sort of try and get the board as upright as possible for upwind, so that was sort of vertical. When you're heeled, that the dagger board is vertical in the water, and by the time we got to the 2010 boats, they had more looking for lift to lift the boat out of the water, and they've conceded that upwind actually isn't that important.
No one wants to go upwind.
And even in the that sort of classic coming up the South Atlantic on the way back, it's just it's not worth having that much emphasis on upwind, I think.
We've moved up to the foiling end of the pontoon, and starting with Jeremy Biou's Chirao. So a bit about Jeremy. He's a triple winner of the Figaro. He's started the Vendée Globe 4 times, and his best finish was in 2016 when he was 3rd. Last time he was the winner of the Vendée Arctique race, and this is the boat that he raced in the Vendée Globe. He's got a new one in build, so this is a 2018 VPLP. What can you tell us about this, Joff?
Well, he launched early. I think it was the first boat launched for the last race, and then he had a load of problems, like 2-3 3 days into it, and
Yeah.
had some structural stuff and something else, I think, and had to come back. So that was kind of it, which is a bit of a shame when you sort of put so much effort into being early and having all that time on the water, to then have something break a few days into the Vendée is incredibly disappointing. So they've got a new boat in build. You can kind of, there's sort of quite strong themes now in the boats, and you can actually age this by its foils because it was built quite early in the programme. So its foils look quite old now, actually, if you compare to a Pivia, which there's not such a quantum shift this time around. So all the latest boats, if you look at PRB, which we looked at the other day, their foils are much more similar, and the way they're controlled is much more similar to a Pivia than if you compare Chiral and a Pivia. But that's one of those things, you trade maybe a year of design for a year on the water.
Yeah.
And then sadly in this case they weren't rewarded with all that.
There's some interesting features here though. So how the kind of the back deck is solid, so the backstays go in through there and underneath, and actually the way the cockpit's quite deep too.
Yeah.
I quite like this cockpit cover arrangement actually.
Yeah.
That looks quite good.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on up then. So our next one is Group Apostille. So this is our sister ship, effectively. This was Maître-Coq in the last Vendée, and it's now been bought by Damien Sagan. So Damien Sagan is a triple Paralympic medalist. He's raced class 40s. He came 7th in the last Vendée Globe. Pretty awesome sailor, and this is very similar to our boat. So it's a 2015 VPLP. It was originally Saffron, Maître-Coq in the last Vendée. He's still got the small foils like us. Has he changed that cockpit cover? Does that look different from when we looked at it?
I don't think so.
Oh, looks quite
I think
comfy.
different paintworks maybe to made it stand out. But yeah, really nice boat. Really clean when Saffron built it. Very simple systems.
And they've got the funky see-through boom thing.
Yeah, that's a Saffron boom, which is a sort of military defence company. So they've got a lot of technological expertise in things like that. And of all way, when they sponsored their boats, they put a lot of effort into designing the rigs, designing the keels. So it's a good technical partnership between the sponsor and the team. And that's one,
I quite like what they've got on the transom here as well. The kind of solid cover over there. I think that's one of the kind of upgrades we're thinking about to make it, because I've just got fabric ramps on the back of my boat, which does make it quite hard to slide sails across. So can I have something like that, please?
You can. And I think they've built out an environmentally friendly or more environmentally friendly product. Well, I'm not sure.
Looks like it's been built out of cardboard, actually.
I think it's advanced ecological cardboard, which is good for something that's non-structural. If we can do more things like that in the class, it's probably a good thing.
And then the next one up the dock is Louis Burton, Bureau Valet. So Louis came 3rd in the last race, and we bought his boat, and he moved on to this one, which is a San Manuel design. It was L'Occitane, and it's got funky foils, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, it's got the biggest foils in the physically the biggest size foils in the fleet. We were in the shed next to them when we were turning our boat into Medallia, and when you see those things out of the boat in a shed, they are huge. And very difficult to put in the boat from what we saw.
Yeah, and it's, something else. My actual first experience of foiling was on this boat with Louis, and it was just clean out of the water. Unbelievable, just wild ride, and Louis sails it like a madman. So I think probably if I was gonna put my money on top 4 runners in this race, Chiral would be in there, Louis would be up there as well, I think, and probably and a Pivia definitely,
and Thomas
and Thomas Rion as well, yeah, definitely, yeah. Moving on to L'Ami Caline, so Arnaud Boissier. Arnaud's kind of the local hero in Les Sables d'Olonne, sponsored by French Greg's, L'Ami Caline. So this boat is a VPLPE boat that was adapted to take foils for Sam Davies. So in the last race, this was Initiative Coeur. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, well, it's the other, as I was saying earlier, it's the second boat from 2010 that's survived. But Sam, she did the foil change. It's got a slight variation of the standardised rig, and she actually changed her sail configuration. So normally we have like 3 upwind headsails on the boat, which I think the sort of trend that was sort of coming from 2004 onwards, really. And she actually went back because she's not. It's similar to a one design rig, but she could reinforce it and use it. She's not tied in by the same one design rules as we are, so she actually changed to a 2 sort of jib configuration at the front. So she's got a much larger J2,
right,
and a larger J3, and then they've got this sort of ORC sail, which is like a combination sort of J4y.
Oh wow, that's quite cool.
So effectively, she's probably got less sail changes to do, and I think as you'll agree, that's a good thing. And I think
definitely a good
as
thing.
the boats
Yeah.
get faster, they're more like the multi-hulls of old, where you got more sails sort of hanging in the air, and you're sort of choosing between those as you are hoisting sails all the time and dropping them.
Yeah.
If you kind of got in, in 2008, you could have like 12 sails or something in there. Obviously, that's dropped right down.
Yeah, and actually, again, kind of looking at the back here, I know that structure across the back was something that Sam had made for her to help shift the sails across that gap there. But I think I prefer the look of Damien's one, actually.
Yeah.
We're now next to Prizeman Group, and we've stopped here because this boat was a sister ship to ours, and it does actually still have the small foils. So there are 3 now with small foils. But Giancarlo has done quite a big bow modification, so he's chopped and changed 6 meters of his bow to a completely new shape. So if we look at Group Aperseal's bow there, that's more like our bow. And then you can see Giancarlo's, it's got a hard chine in it, and it kind of exits the water quite early. And the idea with that bow is to stop the nose diving when the boat's really at speed with the foils. And I know Giancarlo kind of hasn't really, he only had the work finished and the boat launched a couple of weeks before the Bermude meal. So I don't think he's had a proper chance to really get to grips with this, but this race should be quite interesting for him. Boat's looking really good actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice, sharp, clean looking boat. I think he wanted to do that first and then make his decision on the foils closer to the race, which is probably a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, it does look good. I think I've got bow envy. I also like this. Can we have that, please?
What, the Italian flag?
Not Italian. Maybe we could have a British one there.
You're missing yeah, his cockpit's interesting because it's just got really, they've gone for a really low centre of gravity. So you can see all his winches are sort of a shin height, which just moves everything down. The negative of that is that you've got to try and then get all the sheets, runners, main sheet, everything then down and forwards again to those winches. But that's all about trying to stop water getting into the actual cockpit.
Looks quite comfortable though for the driver.
Yeah. Very small. You wouldn't want to do much team racing in that.
Right, so we are next to Apivia. So this is a 2019 Verdier boat, and it was the boat that got line honours in the 2020 Vendée Globe, but then Charlie dropped down to second place because of the time allowance that Yannick was given for taking part in the rescue of Kevin Escoffier. However, this boat has been cleaning up ever since. It is weapon fast, and Charlie is weapon fast. Interesting things about this, I think, is the concave bow, the concave deck on the bow. Which so what's the purpose of that?
Few reasons. I think windage is one. It also creates a stiffer structure because just by putting shape into that deck gives if you think of the hull and the deck as one sort of beam, it sort of gives it more dimensions, which gives it stiffness compared to just a flat deck, which you then need to have toe rails or beams underneath. By putting that shape into it, it just makes that whole structure much stronger. Might be some sort of jib end platey type thing as well, but I think probably windage and just creating a lighter structure are probably the main motivations. And it certainly must funnel a lot of water down that way, and then I think it basically all exits through the...
There must be a lot of water on there, yeah. And then we can see the foils here. I mean, you can see the cord on these foils compared to ours is very different, isn't it?
Yeah, completely different. And he broke one in the Vendée, which is why he wasn't further ahead in that race. He was limping around to some extent, but yeah, it's a really nice boat. Really experienced team behind it, so a lot of resources. Immaculate, and they keep it immaculately. It's a really nice boat.
And so this boat is going to be sailed by Clarice for Banque Populaire next year, and Apivia have a new one in build that I think is being launched in the beginning of 2023.